on a dinosaur bone. Problem is, he didn't know about dinosaurs. So he guessed what animal it was from, leg bone of some kind, and very, very similar to size and structure of this bone I have right here. So, very similar to this. What do you suppose he thought it was from in England in 1676? Dragon? No, they were a little bit past that. Elephant is correct, Roman era elephant. Elephant from the days of Romans were around. Not a bad guess, but wrong. Left enough description of it to know, no, it was probably dinosaur bone. Let's keep going. Let's go to, scientists sometimes are wrong. Okay, hang on to the thought. In 1836, his pastor, Edward Hitchcock in Connecticut, had a little district there, and he was pastoring a church in town, and he noticed by the side of the road in the rock, solid rock, were footprints of what looked like a bird. And so he thought that maybe giant birds used to walk around Connecticut, and something like that. Well, he didn't know about dinosaurs either, and those were dinosaur footprints, probably of about a 6-foot-tall dinosaur, which we still don't know what it looked like or any bones from it. They found thousands of footprints, but not a single bone. Anyway, he was wrong because pastors sometimes are wrong. But, okay, they just didn't know. In England, they were finding things. In England, in early 1800s, they were finding stuff like this. This tooth was found by Mentel, and he asked his friends, what do you think this tooth is from? And finally, one of them said, it looks like an iguana's tooth, but it's 20 times the size of an iguana's tooth. This is a problem. So eventually, they found more bones, more parts of the animal, and eventually that became what was called a iguanodon, iguana tooth, dinosaur. Well, that is the earliest artist rendering of a dinosaur. I just think it's pretty cool to look at. From middle 1800s, an iguanodon. Now, they found more bones since, and they think more like that is probably closer. But anyway, let's keep going. If you'd never heard of Darwin, this was been the most famous scientist of the 19th century in England. And Richard Owen set up the British Museum, a Christian, incidentally, and he came up with a term, and he was an anatomist by training. He came up with the term Dinosaurus, which means awesome lizard. Your old translations say terrible lizard, but terrible used to mean awesome. So that's what it is, awesome lizard. So that became a suborder of reptiles called dinosaurs, Dinosauria. But the most famous discovery in terms of changing the public image's view of these things probably comes from this. Dr. Joseph Leidy was a scientist, and he was in Philadelphia. He had an institute of science there that was basically a museum. He heard about a woman over in New Jersey that her backyard was full of these big bones. So he asked her, can I dig up these bones and bring them to my museum? Yes, you may. He did. He assembled them. Did not have a skull, so he made one out of paper mache. Imagine what it looked like. Put it on display and called it a Hadrosaur. This is 1858. This is the first skeleton on public display in the world. And it was sensational. Now, Philadelphia is in America. Dr. Leidy figured he could sell tickets, and he did. And so they sold tickets. The line went down the street and around the corner. Other museums, likewise located in America, wanted to sell tickets too. And so they noticed, we got to get some of these big bones in our museums. So for the next few years, the people making news were dinosaur hunters. And they would go out into Wyoming and Montana and South Dakota and Colorado and Utah and a little bit of Arizona, as well as BC in Canada. And they would dig up bones, probably breaking every legal rule there is, but they dug them up. And they sold their findings to the big museums of the world, first in America and then in Europe. And dinosaurs got on the map, the public map. When dinosaur bones were first found, you can imagine evolutionists saying, and they did, to creationists, to Bible believers, okay, you guys, where does the Bible have dinosaurs? Where do you find dinosaurs in the Bible? And we usually had two answers. First one was, I don't know. So we didn't have it. And second was, I think the devil made those bones and put them in the ground to get us to not believe the Bible. Okay? Now, those are pretty much what we had for a while as we figured this all out. Okay, anyway. Meanwhile, in the end of the 19th century, they were finding more in Europe. Belgium was digging up iguanodons and putting them on display. American dinosaur bones were making the trips in tours. Here is a big giant Brachiosaurus that's in the Louvre Museum in Paris about 1900. So making the rounds. For a while, and of course we had to have one in our own museum, the Smithsonian. So the Smithsonian looked far and wide. Finally got a specimen they put on display in 1905. Called it a Brontosaurus, which means what? Anybody know? Saurus means lizard. Does anybody know what Bronto means? No, not long neck. Means thunder. Thunder lizard walking down the room, boom, boom, boom. That's what they imagined. Well, it was a fabulous display. They had experts coming from all around the world and marveling at it. They said, wow, that is just a beautiful specimen. It's really spectacular. Are you sure about the head? Turned out they had the wrong head on the dinosaur. A little bit embarrassing. But anyway, it was an Hadrosaurus body with a Camarasaurus head. They called it together a Brontosaurus. To this day, if you get yourself a good, solid dinosaur nerd, and they are out there, ask them if you think, do you think there is such a thing as a Brontosaurus? They will have an opinion about that, I guarantee it. Anyway, because the first one ever made was made up from two dinosaurs. Anyway, this was the picture that was in the Smithsonian behind those bones that you saw. And this is the image that people got as they were looking at these bones. And they tried to imagine what kind of world that was where these giant creatures lived. Which is a really good question, trying to imagine what kind of world. Oh, incidentally, there's the heads. I'll get rid of those. Here we go. Now, for years, I had a large bone myself. I wanted a large bone because I thought there was a certain amount of wow factor when you're talking to people about dinosaurs. I had the tibia of a fibula, of a subadult. You know what a subadult is? Subadult, let me see, let me find a subadult. Here's a subadult right here. Stand up, would you please? Okay, this is a subadult. There you go, thank you very much. You know what I am? I'm a post-adult. No, haven't you gone to like a place to buy tickets, a museum or something, and you say, there's juniors, there's adults, and then there's the one that used to be adults. Post-adults. So I say, I'm already past that. I've done the adult thing. I'm past that. Anyway. Okay, this is a subadult in a fibula, and if it were a full adult, it would probably be about another quarter, 50% longer. But now we have at our museum at the North Pacific Union Conference, pause for a commercial. That museum is open Monday through Thursday. Free. Come on in. If you want a tour, call ahead to make sure one of us who knows how to do that's there. But come on over and take a look at our museum. We have the original. That is the original there. 700 pounds. There was five of us wrestling that thing into place when we got it in that stand. 850 with the stand. Wrestled it into place, and we could have sold that video and made money. It was pretty entertaining. But anyway, I had a cast made that is 19 pounds. So that fits nicely in my Honda Civic. But anyway, but take a look at that. That's from a full-grown adult. Camarasaurus. You can see we're talking serious dinosaur here. And you can double that for the rest of the leg, plus add about this much for the foot, and you're up at the top of the, just only at the top of the hip in the back. And the head would have gone much higher. I'm sure the head could easily touch the top of this ceiling. So we're talking serious size. And for a while, people's images of dinosaurs were pretty much big. They're big, so if I was around, don't get stepped on them. Now I've got here a Camarasaurus adult tooth. This tooth is spoon-shaped. It's clearly vegetarian in its what it ate. So for the most part, these big giant dinosaurs were just don't get stepped on for 50 years. But then they found something else. Then about early 1900s, they started to find more of these, things with teeth. Okay? The first T-Rex was found by Henry Osborn, 1905 in Wyoming. I've been down the gravel road in that area, and one of the guys that was driving me said, "Stan, do you see that hill up ahead?" Yeah, that's where Henry Osborn found it, first one. The T-Rex. Called it Tyrannosaurus rex or king tyrant lizard. Now, take a look at this guy. Serious teeth. It clearly changed overnight, the images of dinosaurs. Suddenly it was don't not just get stepped on, don't get munched, don't get eaten. And that changed the images of dinosaurs. Now, a couple things about T-Rexes, because everybody seems to be curious about T-Rex. One thing that we know that T-Rex ate was Triceratops. Now, how would we know that? How would we know that he ate Triceratops?
What is Triceratops?
Triceratops, this guy here, the one in the foreground there. How do we know that he ate some of those? It's really as simple as that. They found a skeleton of a T-Rex with his lunch still in his stomach. And when they, when they looked at the bone pieces, they knew that it was a Triceratops. Now, you might think, how would they know that from bits and bones? You'd be surprised. I have a tooth of a Triceratops in my collection. Tooth. Toe bone. A toe bone. And if I were to show this to a dinosaur nerd, they would look at it, and they are out there, trust me. They are real experts. Look at this, and they say, this is the middle toe and the right rear foot of a Triceratops. And they'd be right. So they do know the bones. Do know the bones. But this does not answer the very famous question that dog scientists to this day. Was a Triceratops a predator or a scavenger? Because it could have eaten a dead Triceratops, right? So, why would you wonder about whether that was a predator or not? Well, it looks like that's a challenge to that image. How about that little bitty front legs, right? For arms there, you know? It doesn't look like it could catch much. So that's one thing. It doesn't look like it's a very fast runner either. It looks like it's got to carry a lot of weight. So there's that. As I joke with people about a hadrosaur, hadrosaurs lived in the same neighborhood as T-Rex. Bones are found in the same place. So I say, we know that a hadrosaur, a giraffe-sized dinosaur, could run 25 miles an hour. Well, how do we know that? Because T-Rex could run 24 miles an hour. Okay, never mind. Trying to keep you awake. Is it working? You got it, okay. Incidentally, here is a fossil, really interesting fossil of, believe it or not, a T-Rex and a Triceratops together. And what they found in the T-Rex was broken rib bones. With the Triceratops, they found teeth marks. And here they are fossilized together. What's the scenario there? What it looks like is these two dinosaurs were, because of rising water, forced to be close together. Maybe it was on a hill, and because they were close together, they were fighting each other. And as the water covered them up and preserved them right there, Explain it any other way. Explain it any other way. Okay, so there's a footprint of a T-Rex. They're pretty sure about that. There's only a couple that they're sure about. And it is 33 inches long, 28 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. That's deep. So heavy. This T-Rex, which is on display in South Dakota in Hill City, has been affectionately named Stan. Stan the dinosaur. Incidentally, they named dinosaurs according to who discovered the bones, the skeleton. That's important because you might think they know the sex of the dinosaurs. They do not. They do not know the sex. Sometimes they've wondered about the width of the hips in some of them and wondered if they could differentiate between male and female. But that's generally been thought to be not very accurate. Anyway, T-Rex named Stan. For years, Stan was the best T-Rex found at 40% complete. 40%. You only need 10% of a dinosaur, any animal, to be considered a skeleton. Only 10%. Why is that important? Because you might occasionally see some news article, skeleton of an ancient animal found, and it answers everything. It fills in all the blanks. Suddenly we know everything. Thank you. And usually it's just a few bones and the rest is, what's the word? Yeah, imagination or speculation, right, speculation. Anyway, so Stan was 40% complete, best one ever, until they found a dinosaur named Sue. Sue was found in South Dakota in 1990 by the Larson brothers, who actually owned Stan there. Unfortunately for them, it was found on Indian reservation, and once they figured out what this was they'd found, it went to court as to who owned it. And eventually, the Larsons lost. So all the people that did all the work, anyway, lost. But Sue was 90% complete. So prior to that, 40, and then Sue is 90. Sue is now on display in the Chicago's Field Museum. So if you're ever in Chicago, you might be able to go see Sue. And Chicago's in America. They sell tickets. Not cheap. But Sue is something. Incidentally, whenever you see a skeleton like this, are you looking at the real deal or a copy? Almost all the time it's a copy. And that's, they don't like to say that very loudly because people want to see the real deal. In the case of Sue, up in the second floor, you'll see Sue's actual skull on display. The skull is the money shot for any dinosaur. Skulls are very rare. First things to break in any sort of, rock movement or flood or you name it. Skulls are very rare. Sue's in great shape, and that's why she's so valuable. They sold Sue to the museum for $8 million. Boy, that's a steal. In today's money, that's a steal. They would easily make that money back in the selling of tickets. But if in case you're wondering what you're going to do next summer, just head off to the Northern Rockies with a pick and a shovel and look for some of these things. You might do well. Now, T-Rexes have actually, believe it or not, been hugely important in the subject of age of the Earth. Because in 2005, some scientists involved with a T-Rex discovery were actually studying the bones. Now, they'd broken the bones, they cut the bones open, and they were actually wanting to study some of the interior of the bones. They left it in a solution that would dissolve some material. Problem is, they left it in too long and it got really to the center of the bone. They did not particularly want to do that. So, whoops-a-daisy, left it in too long. And as they were looking at what they had left, you could almost hear a voice shouting across America, "We have soft tissue here." What? And they found out they had soft tissue, flexible vessels, what looked like red blood cell stains in there. Other things too, and they could not explain that because the bone had to be a minimum 65 million years old. It is not possible to have soft tissue after 65 million years. And this is according to evolutionists long ago done studies on how long it takes for things to break down. And so, the absolute longest I've seen for any organic material inside a bone, they thought maybe 1 million years, maybe, outstretched. Now they're finding, the head of the team that was doing this work, Mary Schweitzer, woman scientist, I think University of Southern Carolina or North Carolina or something like that. Anyway, she had to defend this work. She came out with a report that we have soft tissue in a dinosaur bone. And she got slammed by the science community in the world. You call yourself a scientist. Shame on you for presenting such silly, poorly done research to even suggest that the bones are younger than 65. I mean, do you realize what creationists are going to do with this? You know, you did shoddy work, and the university you work for should fire you, which is usually the case on stuff like this. And she was listening carefully to the criticisms, and a couple of things that some of them said were pretty good that she could have done better. So she went back, redid the research, came back with the same conclusions, published again. And this time, science community reluctantly has agreed that, well, some miracle of preservation took place here. Now, she's made a good science statement afterwards. This is good science. She's a Christian, but she's a theistic evolutionist. This is a statement she made. She said, either there are ways of preserving organic material that we have no concept of at present, or these bones are not as old as we thought. Now, that's a good science statement. I would accept that as a good science statement. And of course, you know what we think about that. Now, that started a whole field of study of let's break some bones. So now, because it was thought impossible to find any organic material still in bones, now they're looking for them. And they have got dozens that are being reported that have been found, anywhere from proteins, chitin, to even one controversial DNA report, which is probably, that would be hard when DNA disappears right away, pretty close. So anyway, the point is they're finding lots of examples of soft tissue and organic material in fossils that are said to be millions of years old, where they use the evolutionist studies themselves on how long it takes for these to break down. They've already done the work, so they're just using the reports. Interesting. Okay, let's keep going. Footprints. Let's talk about footprints for a minute. Footprints are fossil evidence. There is a place in central Texas near Fort Worth, a little place called Glen Rose. And there is a state park there, and the kids frolic around these riverbeds where there are dinosaur footprints in the rock. I don't know of any other place like this. Real dinosaur footprints in the rock. Pretty cool. Now, this is the place where some have proposed that there are human footprints with dinosaur footprints in the same layer. Have anybody ever heard of stories like that? This is the place where that supposedly has happened. There is a guy standing there to try to give an idea of, and I think he believes these are human footprints here with these dinosaur footprints. Problem is with this, and I really try to be open-minded about this because I don't have any question of the idea of humans and dinosaurs living pre-flood on the same planet. So the chronology doesn't bother me. But are these real human footprints? And as far as I can tell, they are not. That's my opinion. And because every once in a while you see one that definitely does not look like a human footprint, whereas a couple are. And these would be 6-foot-tall humans anyway. And then these are clearly dinosaur footprints. You can see that water can greatly affect the shape of footprints. Those are other dinosaur footprints found in Utah. Anyway, so I'm skeptical on that. You always find a fan of that. Let's keep going. Were dinosaurs really reptiles? Well, actually, they found the skin impression left. I've got a piece right here, a skin impression of a dinosaur. How do you get a skin impression of a dinosaur? When a dinosaur died and got covered in mud, the mud hardened into rock and the body deteriorated. So if you pop open just right when you're trying to get the bones out, they're always trying to get the bones, of course. Pop it open, you might actually have the skin impression of a dinosaur. If you take a look, you can see that the cell structure in this example clearly scales. They're scales like any other reptile. So that is a good example, good proof of dinosaurs were big lizards. The bigger ones, it's a challenge on whether they were warm-blooded or cold-blooded. I know those issues. That is a dinosaur egg on the left. Now, when I was a kid, I assumed the size of a dinosaur egg would be about like that. You know, surely. But actually, dinosaur eggs were not much bigger than this. There's a very few of them, like this one in the upper right picture here, had embryo bones in it. Almost none of them do. But here is a dinosaur egg from China. And it is filled in with sand and becomes solid rock, as they all have. But anyway, they only started like this, which means that even the biggest guys, like this, even the big ones started off small. Now, some people think that's interesting for such issues as, did dinosaurs get on the ark? Did they have to be adults? Whoop. Yes. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. Now, how many of you intelligent people here would like to dig up dinosaur bones yourself? There you go. All right. Anybody else here with IQ higher than, no, just kidding. I mean, duh. Who wouldn't want to do that? So you can, the good news is you can. This is in Wyoming, northeast Wyoming, the most forsaken part of this country you've ever seen. Miles and miles and miles of, but anyway. But good for dinosaur bones. This is a ranch that's owned by a Christian family for 100 years in their family. And it's a world-class dinosaur bone deposit. And they did not want the bones to be studied by evolutionists. So, providentially, God led Southwestern Adventist University to have relationships with these folks. And every year in June, for the month of June, they have a dig. And you, as a volunteer, can sign up and go and spend 1 day or 30 days, whatever you want, for a minimum camping fee that covers food. And there you can go and you can dig up dinosaur bones. Bad news, can't keep them. They're owned by the family. But they're on permanent loan to the university. Anyway, so there's Dr. Art Chadwick there leading a worship one morning. And then after the worship, he or one of his associates would say, okay, here's where we're going to go today. This group will go there, this group will go there, and you will go. Now, this is my associate, Morella's little girl, Lila, and this last summer, she's showing what she found. And there I've got a little piece of a backbone of a hadrosaur that I dug up. And hadrosaur is a giraffe-sized dinosaur. Anyway, and hadrosaur is pretty much what you find right there. It's pretty cool. There's a few years earlier when I'm wearing younger man clothes, and there is a rib bone I'm digging up also from a hadrosaur. You might notice that right next to the bone, if you can see it, is a little squeegee bottle, and that has sort of like a super glue in it, very similar to super glue, and you pour that on the bone, it just goes in the bone, into it really quickly, hardens the bone to where you can transport it real easily in one piece. So, pretty cool. Before they get wrapped up and taken away, one of the associates, like that's Dr. Chadwick, or somebody else will come over with a GPS ground locating system. Put it on the corner. It's triangulated. They got a station there to where they can locate this position wherever they put it to within a fraction of an inch. They put it on the corners of the bones that are exposed. Eventually, those bones will have photographs taken of them, and in scale will be dropped into this program. Now take a look. It has the effect of removing the dirt and looking straight down on the bone deposit. Is that not cool? That's cutting edge technology there. Cutting edge. And anyway, take a look. Now that's one of the bone beds there. Take a look and tell me what and almost all these bones are hadrosaur bones. There's the bits and pieces of ancient alligator and maybe triceratops. And yeah, even occasionally a T-Rex bone or tooth. We found a T-Rex tooth this summer. Take a look and see what you see. What do you not see in these bones? You don't see what? Don't see organization. You don't see hip bone connected to the leg bone kind of thing, do you? This is all disarticulated bones. What else do you not see? You don't see skulls, which is a hint that however they got there, it broke the skulls. Now, if you look carefully at the bones, you look at them individually, you'll see that they've not been in air for very long because air will do something to the outside of the bones, and you can see that. These bones got covered up quickly. Also, on the edge of the bones, you see rounding on the corners, so they were rolled. Probably rolled for miles. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think happened here, and it's not a pretty picture. Before I tell you the exact thing that happened, I should tell you I asked Dr. Chadwick, have you done other surveys on the same, it's about a 24-inch layer that only these bones are in, only, not above or below, just there. And whenever you saw it somewhere else in these canyons, have you done over there, have you done over there? Yeah, we've done the whole area. Is the bone density similar? Yes. Wow, have you done any number crunching as to what we're looking at here? Yes, we have. Somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 hadrosaurs are represented here. These are, again, giraffe-sized dinosaurs, 5,000 to 10,000. Pardon me? How many acres? I don't know if I could answer that accurately, but it's a fairly good size area. But look at the bone density in this picture. It gives you an idea. So, okay. The only explanation for this is as following. Whatever happened to these dinosaurs, whatever killed them, did not leave their bones exposed in the sun. But instead their bodies seemed to have been transported and rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled probably for miles, broke them apart, broke the skulls, and eventually they all landed in a basin and got covered up in 2 feet of mud and preserved there. You cannot explain it any other way. And does that not sound like a biblical event that we sort of talk about occasionally? The flood. It was one of the actions of the flood. So, anyway, kind of interesting. We'll talk about the flood coming up. Now, does the Bible tell us anything about dinosaurs? Remember, the name comes from the mid-1800s, so the word is too new to be in the Bible. Is there anything that sounds like a dinosaur in the Bible? Well, first of all, in the creation story itself, the 5th day of creation, it says God created great sea creatures. And the word for creatures there is a Hebrew word tananim. Em is plural, tananim. And tananim usually for the rest of the Old Testament means some kind of reptile. I'll just leave it to you to decide whether it's talking about great sea reptiles. But this is probably more interesting. Now, Job talks about 2 great animals. One is Leviathan. You've heard of Leviathan? Leviathan has got over a chapter. Lots about Leviathan. Its skin is so tough to penetrate, really hard skin. It makes the water boil, stuff like that. Scholars, if you have the kind of Bible and you read in really tiny print at the bottom of the page, scholars think that a Leviathan was what do they say? It says a Nile crocodile. Now, I actually think Leviathan, Nile crocodile, that's probably not too bad. I know it talks about fire-breathing kind of, or smoke from its nostrils or something. But in terms of tough skin, in terms of it being a water animal, in terms of it making the water boil, if you know a crocodile, when it has prey in its mouth, it will roll with it. And when it rolls with that prey, it kind of looks like the water's boiling. I'll leave it to you to decide if that's decent. I think that's decent, with not a period, but a comma. But this one, behemoth, is something different. God is saying in Job 40, look now at the behemoth. The word behemoth means beast, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. First good news of the description is it's vegetarian. See now, his strength is in his hips, his power is in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar, his bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron. Very powerful animal. He is the first of the ways of God. What does that mean, first of the ways of God? I mean, chronology first of the ways of God? That couldn't be the first. It's a land animal. It's not the first animal. First land animal God made. So I did some study on the internet. What do scholars think this is talking about? And almost to a man or a woman, they basically said, we don't think this is talking about chronology. We think this is talking about superiority. This is the head of the class of most amazing animal ever. It stands first place, winner in the contest of wow animals. Okay, now I'm getting all excited, and I go back to my Bible and look for that tiny print at the bottom of the page for behemoth. Scholars think a behemoth was a hippopotamus. Most amazing animal ever, hippopotamus. I don't know. Hey, Job, did you look at the hippopotamus? That is. Okay, so take a look at that description. He moves his tail, or literally in Hebrew, sways his tail like a cedar. Cedar is the largest tree in the Middle East. Have you ever seen a hippopotamus tail? Second choice is elephant. So I wouldn't think, it's not shedding this image of, it's not really radiating to me like it's a giant tail. Might this, now this would be a legendary animal to Job, I get it. Might he be talking about something like this? Here, we'll put it up. There's a south end of a hippopotamus. There's Job for scale. It might be something more like this. Now, I'll leave it to you because people have strong opinions about dinosaurs and whether God created them, yes, no. But might it be something like this with a tail that would remind you of a cedar tree? I'll leave it to you, but I think it's a little closer than hippopotamus. Anyway, leave that to you to decide. Now, here's a question for you, another trivia question. Do we believe in evolution? Creationists, do we believe in evolution? What's the word mean? What's the word mean? Change. It means change. Do we believe any animals changed? Did that animal look like that when it was tricking Eve? It's not been, Eve didn't say, oh, look, there's a snake. I'm going to go get up real close and... Probably not. So it probably was something beautiful. Jewish tradition holds that it was a flying animal because it was in a tree, whether it was a parrot, whatever it was a gorgeous animal and a smart animal too. So whatever it was, it changed. Now, for a moment, I want you to think like a Hebrew. Think you can do that for a minute or two? Because you are all Greeks. You are Greeks. And I'm just sorry to say you're all Greeks. Well, I'm a Greek. So, think like a Hebrew for a minute on this subject. Curses and blessings. Curses and blessings. To a Greek, a curse is, this guy just cut me off in traffic. Okay. Blessing is, have a nice day. But to a Hebrew, those are tangible things. A blessing makes something better than what it was before. A couple steps up. A tangible thing. Whereas a curse is just the opposite. It's now less than what it was. Are you with me? That's very Hebrew thinking. And that's exactly what's going on here when God says, you are cursed more than all cattle. On your belly you shall go and you shall eat dust. You are from now on, serpent, going to lose every attractive feature you had in attracting Eve over to you. You're going to lose that ability to trick her again. In fact, this is how far you're going to go. You're going to be crawling on the ground and eating dust, or in other words, that's where your head's going to be. Your mouth is going to be down there. But more than that, all animals, because you're cursed more than all animals. Cattle means animals in this context. And so now all animals are going to be less, because of the effect of sin, less than what they were before. All are taking steps down. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking Adam and I probably didn't have a lot in common. except 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. I'm thinking I'm some steps down from Adam. Is my wife here? We have all seen the effects of sin. Amen? And we are all less than what God created us to be. All less. And you know what? I get often some of these some of these movies for mostly young people, they always have this idea of at the end you can become more than what you are at the beginning of the movie, right? And so you can be better. And I think inside of all of us we feel a basic sense that we're not all we could be. There's something's the matter. We all could be more than we are. I think God's got that. God got that in all of us. So notice the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth also was filled with violence. What pulled the trigger for God? So God looked upon the earth, indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me. Why? For the earth is filled with what? Violence. Now, as I'll talk about in the next and final talk for today, when we talk about the flood, what was it that so triggered the flood? It was the violence that was in the animal and human kingdom. Animal kingdom, too, had gotten out of hand. A lot of the animals had become violent, looked like food, and they were attacking each other and so on. Take a look at some of these animals. An ankylosaur. This is a smaller dinosaur, but look at this thing. This thing looks like it lived in a combat-oriented world, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it was in the petable form of Garden of Eden. It's got an armored head. It's got a club for a tail. It's got spikes all through its back. It just looks like it's not living in a happy, peaceful world. How did that happen? It's certainly not what it originally was intended to be. Stegosaurus, it's got spikes in its tail, and it's got bony plates on its back, clearly for protection. How about Pachycephalosaurus, which basically means bonehead? He ran into things with a very thick, armored head. Take a look at this guy. This is a nodosaur. Nodosaurs are related like to an ankylosaur. And it just looks like, boy, is that beautifully preserved or what? Top half of this thing was found in Canada about 2 years ago. About the size of this table up here. And incredibly detailed. But again, spikes all over it. Back's just, yeah. I'm going to leave you with those thoughts that some of the dinosaurs we see appear to show signs of living in a world of violence and showing this curse of it. Now, how they got that far off, some people have even wondered if maybe they were the result of humans breeding them for combat or for violent uses. I'll leave it to you to decide. Could these teeth belong only to a meat eater? Because whenever an evolutionist sees teeth like that, it means they ate meat 100% of the time. No other options. Take a look at these two animals. Look at the serious canine teeth in these, and that's what determines that they were meat eaters, supposedly. And yet that, on the left, is a panda. What's a panda eat? Bamboo, nothing else, just bamboo. And a grizzly bear, who has the most serious canines you'll ever see, is an omnivore, could eat anything. And if it is restricted in its options, it will eat plant-based food and can do just fine. Point is, you don't have to assume God created everything with pointy teeth and that many created them to be meat eaters. That's the point there. Okay, I got a couple of cool teeth here. Look at this guy on the left. That's next to a wolf fang. And that is a Spinosaurus tooth, which comes from a dinosaur that looks like an alligator on steroids. Here it is right here, and it's got that trough right there. So the tooth that was on the other side of the mouth was coming down like this and scraping it. This dinosaur needed braces. Needed braces. Anyway, yeah. There's that Camarasaurus tooth, and there's the Triceratops teeth, clearly vegetarian. How about dinosaur to bird evolution? Two theories. Large ground bipeds. It used to be large two-legged dinosaurs, and they somehow evolved into birds. Okay, problem with that? What's not a problem with that? That means this has to become a bird. What's a problem? Well, first of all, those two front arms have got to become the longest of the appendages, and the ones in the back, you got a whole lot of weight you got to lose there. So anyway, they realized there's problems with that, and so they also had another option called small crocodiles from the trees. That's their wording. I'm not making it up. Small crocodiles from the trees. So small crocodiles climbed up trees, saw food, jumped out, got the food, successfully ate it, made babies. Okay? You with me so far? Somehow, babies is what it's about. Anyway, somehow along the line, there was a prodigy, maybe progeny and prodigy at the same time. There was one that had some kind of skin flaps in the legs, and so once it jumped up, saw food, it could sail out further, get more food, make more babies. That was an advantage. Okay? Then eventually, somehow or other, that fold became wings, and the bumps on their scales became feathers that came from underneath the skin. Any questions? Skin folds become wings, lungs. Incidentally, when a bird is flapping its wing, okay, a lizard has very slow respiratory, very slow. But a bird, whenever it's flapping its wings, is breathing every time. So there's a real question of how lungs went from to all that. You know, there's a number of questions. Feathers. Those are the bumps on the scales, and those supposedly became follicles that grew out from underneath, which we call feathers. So whenever you go to KFC or go into KFD, Kentucky Fried Dinosaurs, and that's what they think that you're eating. So, you know, just give me a bucket of crispy T-Rex, that'll do. Anyway, this is promoted by #1 promoter of science to birds from dinosaurs is the National Geographic, that magazine. I remember reading an article about T-Rex in there, and the T-Rex, it was saying that the mother was gathering together her chicks. Chicks. T-Rex doesn't have chicks. Okay, I get what you're trying to promote. I get it. Anyway, okay, T-Rex chicks. Don't you think T-Rex having chicks? Okay, so I'm getting sarcastic here, and that must mean I'm eating sugary things. Let's see. Feathered birds. Let's go into the rock layers themselves. Here's a problem with the rock layers for dinosaur to bird evolution. We got land dinosaurs. Incidentally, flying dinosaurs we got. Did they become birds? No, they did not. So don't even think about flying dinosaurs. Land dinosaurs, there's two kinds of land dinosaurs, bird-hipped dinosaurs and lizard-hipped. Sounds funny, lizard-hipped. Lizard-hipped and bird-hipped dinosaurs. Between those dinosaurs that had hips like lizards and dinosaurs that had hips like birds, one of them became birds. Which one do you think it was? One's with bird. Okay, are you awake? Dinosaurs with bird hips or lizard hips became birds. Good guess. Wrong. It was the one that had lizard hips that became birds. I don't know, that just seems funny to me. So anyway, let's keep going. Notice that feathered birds actually go deeper into the fossil record than they first thought, and that's a problem. Down to the Triassic layer, here you're getting them almost down to the first apparent dinosaurs, and you're already finding birds. How do we know that? Check this out. This is pretty cool. This is a set of bird tracks found in Argentina at the Triassic layer. They don't want it to be the Triassic layer. It is the Triassic layer. And it's absolutely bird footprints because they've got the backward toe right there, and backward toe, the helix. So these are not lizards, these are birds. And there was a bird the size of a seagull that landed on this mud, hop, 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 all around, led these footprints there, and then they got eventually covered up, as all footprints do, with more soft mud coming in and making a layer and preserving it. Well, this is a problem because it's too deep for birds to be alive. Not supposed to be down there. It's significant because we find footprints with morphology, that shape, identical to modern birds at rocks that predate by 55 million years the first record of true aves, that's birds. So it's significant because we're finding them too deep. They should be up here where birds eventually evolved into. These are birds up here. What are they doing down here? So that's an interesting problem for Age of the Earth folks to figure out. Anyway, so I think I know what happened. I know what happened? Waters are rising, flood waters are rising, bird is flying, getting tired, lands, hop, 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 up, the water's coming, let's get out of here, up here, and eventually gets caught where other birds are caught, way up higher. Anybody got a better explanation than that? So, anyway, dinosaur evolution, they think that dinosaur evolution is very set. And here are the 10 basic families of dinosaurs. I'm adding bird in there as to show that that's a dinosaur. Let's see, let's find out if we, and this over here on the far left is the supposed ancestor to all dinosaurs. Should be in the Triassic layer approximately. Now we've got lots of fossils. This is deep and this is higher up. So timeline goes from left to right. More modern here, older here. Okay, do we have any fossils down here? Yeah, we sure do. Lots and lots and millions of fossils. Do we have any fossils that will link these families together to show that one broke off from the other and developed like this? And so far, not too much evidence, and we haven't found the ancestor yet. If you think I'm kidding, here is a dinosaur expert, evolutionist, talking about it. He said, from my reading of the fossil record of dinosaurs, no direct ancestors have been discovered for any species. No direct ancestors. Alas, my list of dinosaurian ancestors is an empty one. So in other words, we find dinosaurs like we find any other fossil animal. They suddenly show up without any ancestors before in deeper layers. Suddenly show up. And that's it. Okay, what happened to dinosaurs? And incidentally, evolutionists now are far more open to the idea of a catastrophe taking out dinosaurs. Way more open. In fact, they're more open to catastrophes, period, than they used to be. Used to be they weren't. Now they're open. And meteorites are usually involved, and I'm actually a believer that meteorites probably were involved in the flood. I have no doubt about that. From theological reasons, too. God throwing rocks. You take a look and see if that's not one of his ways of executing judgment on the earth. Right on down to Nebuchadnezzar's statue, a rock cut out without human hands. Anyway, very possible. Candidates for largest dinosaurs get up to 130 feet long, but you know what the average size of a dinosaur was? The average size of a dinosaur was the size of a large dog. Average. They got as small as chickens. I just discovered another one that's about the size of a turkey. I'm waiting for the new name to be talked about. Turkeyosaurus. Something like that. So the question would be this, if this is true, what makes a difference between a dinosaur and a lizard? Just a regular old lizard. What's the difference? And the simple answer is it's a structural difference in the body shape. Does anybody here know what that is? It'd be really impressive for all the people here. It's not shoulders, huh? What? Length? No, it's not length. I just told you they got as smallest height. Down low? Oh, lower down. Oh, well, most lizards are pretty low. Oh, so you're thinking dinosaurs are not as low. Actually, you're on the right track. It's on the right track. Does anybody want to go a little further on that? No, it's not leg length. Nope. That's not what separates them. Okay, no, everybody give up? Yes. It's in the hips. It's in the hips. Lizard hips, it does sound funny. Lizard hips put the legs straight out. So whenever you see a lizard going around, they're like this, they go. Whereas dinosaur hips have the legs go straight down. It gets the body off the ground, whether it's 4 legs or 2 legs, size is immaterial. That's it. And you might say, well, do we have any dinosaurs today? What about Komodo dragons? Komodo dragons are like this. Alligators, yep, like this. So even the big guys today are like this, not like this. Okay, now you're smart and can answer trivia questions. You're ready for Jeopardy. Now here's the question. that all creationists are curious about. Did any dinosaur sneak onto the ark? Because there have been some in the Adventist church and other conservative denominations that have more or less basically looped all dinosaurs into the God didn't make them category. And therefore they wouldn't be on the ark. Well, here's the thought. We have stories, and you're going to hear about flood stories in a minute, but we have stories from every corner of this planet. Scores of national and local stories about human encounters with large lizards, the original word. Big lizards, dragons. Whether it's in China, Africa, it's got stories. The Middle East has got stories. St. George and the Dragon, right, in England. So we have stories all around. In ancient days, when I say ancient, I mean Alexander the Great type days, even Marco Polo, there are stories that exist of these guys simply casually mention, I saw a dragon in a cave here. It's big, no big deal. Again, they're probably meaning big lizard. There's these stories, and the question I have for you, why are they always dragon stories? Why are they never giant bear stories or wolf stories or lion tigers stories? When you ask an evolutionist, they might say something like this. Well, I think the ancient people probably saw bones like this and imagine that there used to be giant dinosaurs. I say, where would you get a lizard from that? Where would you get a lizard? A lizard is a pest. Ancient people, a lizard is a pest, not a scary, threat. Honey, there's a lizard in the kitchen. Will you please come get it? That kind of thing. And so if they are scary animals, why are they always lizards? Well, So I'd like to suggest to you these are ancient memories of real human encounters, always embellished, but with perhaps a kernel of truth when people remember the days when these big lizards were still around. Incidentally, in most dragon stories, the story centers around the last one getting it. I mean, there's never herds. There's always like one in a cave or something, and the story basically involves getting rid of it, and that's it, and there's no more. So it sounds like it's a tail end of the last ones. Now, my question for you would be, do you think this is pre-flood or post-flood stories? And so they sound like post-flood stories, which would suggest that some did get on the ark. I'm going to leave it to you, and you're probably going to ask me questions on the side about some of that. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. Now, finally, I'm going to finish with this image, and I'm going to put a scary dragon head on it, medieval dragon head. Take a look at him. Now he looks a little bit more fierce. And remind you of this verse we started with. So the great dragon was cast out, that servant of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. Who deceives the whole world. This big lizard is deceiving the whole world. What's he deceiving the whole world about? Again, 12 is before 13. Revelation 13 goes into Revelation 14. And the first message from the angel is, remember, God is your creator. Now, what would the devil be interested in creating as a secondary story to that? How about you are not made in the image of a God, a creator that loves you and made you in his image? Instead, you oozed up, as John Lennon's saying, ooze up slowly from a bubbling pond of hot chemicals. And you evolved into, thanks you mutations, involved into this purposeless, futureless form that you now have. You are not made in the image of a king. You are animated slime. And your ancestors have been around for millions of years. Now, what single image could portray, to some people's thinking, a challenge to the Genesis story? One picture, one image. How about a dinosaur? Because when people see dinosaurs, don't they think, dinosaurs, yeah, millions of years, not Genesis. Am I right? I think it's an effective, deceiving image. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the study of dinosaurs. They are interesting animals, and it seems like the devil has been interested in counterfeiting and messing with the very best things you've ever made. Certainly that involves marriage, that involves a lot of things that he's like to mess up. And it could be, well, that a line of incredible animals he likewise like to mess. Examples of your fantastic creative ability in engineering and beauty. Who knows? Maybe so. But we pray, Father, we won't buy his line about creation and a myth that we are not specially made in the image of God. Thank you for the invitation we have today, Lord, and please be with us as we continue in Jesus' name. Amen. Pastor, do we want to do questions about dinosaurs now or later? And it'll be about dinosaurs. Now, okay. Questions about dinosaurs. The flood we're going to do in a little bit, and after the flood I'd like to do more general questions, because you know what? I went too long. Oh no, that's right, I studied at 15 after. I'm okay.
So if the dinosaurs made to the ark,
Yes.
wouldn't we find, did they survive afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't we find the bones?
Good.
Wouldn't we find bones in a different way than the bones?
In a different level?
Yeah, in a different level, like
Almost all the fossils we find are flood, period, whether they're mammals, dinosaurs, or anything else. We don't think that animals that lived after the flood, except for a few cases like maybe mammoths. There's a few Ice Age animals that appear to have been preserved a little bit, but almost no animals at all after the flood are preserved. Yeah, because you need water and sediments and a whole bunch of stuff to make fossils.
I've heard some people say that there's no way that a plant-eating animal of that size could have survived after the flood. I don't know what you think of that. Or it would have been very difficult.
I've been wanting to avoid a source that I take to be helpful in this question, and that is Spirit of Prophecy. I will just mention this, that a writer in the Adventist Church named Ellen White, we hold her writings to be very helpful in understanding and re-understanding history. One of the things that she has said, which makes sense with your point, and that is that God permitted the largest of the dinosaurs to die out in the flood because afterwards man would not be able to handle them. Now, the point of your question is, frankly, after the flood, the food source for these biggest dinosaurs was absolutely destroyed. There were no forests, there were no nothing which these animals could have lived easily on, and so to me that impacts that. But remember, I told you the vast majority of dinosaurs were not the giants. So anyway, I don't know if that helps you in that question answer. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Well, on the T-Rex, the arms, the front arms, they don't look like they'd be much use. Do you have a theory on that?
Well, first of all, this one is smiling. Do you like the smile? I kind of like this smiling. I think he's smiling. He looks like he's a happy animal. I've heard all kinds of things about that. I don't know if we have a lot of time on that, but if it was a hunter, some have suggested that it hunted and just landed on the animal with its big feet on the back, just plop, chase it, and then just landed with its back feet, and didn't do much with the small arms. I've also heard people say that this looks like this was an attempt to breed animals that didn't go too well. I'll leave it to you to decide. Next. Yes.
On the idea of dinosaurs being on the ark, one explanation I heard and wanted to see what your opinion was, but that lizards don't stop growing. And that's why they were young, and like today they just don't live as long, but they technically just...
When I've asked reptile experts that, they have said that some reptiles, do apparently not stop growing. How would you like that? Would you like your kids or, humans never stop growing? That'd be interesting. Did you know that your face continues to grow? Did you know that? Into older age?
Mine
That's why
gets longer.
That's why your nose gets a little bigger and you get a little more wrinkles and everything, because it's just a little more, the same support area with more stuff on it. But I don't know, that just seemed like a fun place to put that. Yes, it's true. That has been suggested as maybe they were younger ones that went on the ark. I'm a little skeptical about never stopping growing, but that's what I've heard. I've heard like you. Can you make these easier questions, please?
I read somewhere that the reason they didn't make to the ark was because of they wouldn't be able to survive, something to do with the pressure, they wouldn't be able to breathe and survive.
Anybody who suggests that they understand the pressure, the air pressure pre-flood of the world before, is absolutely speculating. I've heard for 1,000 people with opinions, there are 1,000 opinions. So I'm not quite sure what the pre-flood atmosphere was, but I'll tell you this, it was sure not what it is now. Mm-hmm. And whatever the changes were, I think, among other things, that whatever protective features of the previous atmosphere we had, whether it was cosmic rays or whatever it protected us from, I think that since that protection is gone, I think that's affected lifespans. So those are more interesting questions to me than air pressure questions. But anyway.
Yeah.
Where's a hand? Oh, yes. Herb.
In regards to serpents or reptiles continue to grow, I've heard stories of 30-foot alligators.
30-foot alligators?
Africa, and my son-in-law was a flyer on the Amazon River for many, many years.
Okay.
I asked him one day, I said, what's the largest anaconda you've ever seen or heard about? He says, well, there's a story that I think is true, but this anaconda came up on land.
Oh, here we go.
Where there was a farm, and there was cows there. And there was a military unit stationed there, and they came out, they found it, and they killed it. And it was actually 30 feet wide, or 30 inches wide, and 90 feet long.
I'm sorry, but whenever we talk about origins, there are always anecdotal stories. Have you heard the story of the 9-foot-tall man that they found in such and such, and it's now in a closet in the Smithsonian and no one can see it? And no offense, I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying the whole subject of anecdotal stories. To me, one of the reasons that I was asked to do this is, and I hate to put it this way, folks, but it's true. My area of expertise or interest includes a few people that shouldn't be there. Do you understand what I mean by that? And that is, there's a lot of people going out talking on these subjects of origins, and some of the sensational things they talk about are very hard to prove from science. And because of that, we look like comparative idiots to a large group of science-oriented people that feel that you need to back up things with good science if you're going to make a science statement. And I actually agree with a lot of that philosophy. And so I only stick to things that I can prove or there's good support for, because I don't need the other. You follow? And so if I can talk about facts and things that I can show you, see, that's why I'm not excited about people who says I found Noah's Ark, but I can't show you where it is. I found the Ark of the Covenant, but it's in a place I can't take you to. Or stuff like that. Let's stick with things that you can put in front of people, including your worst critics, and say, you tell me what you feel this is. You know, that's how you do stuff, and that's how you, okay. I'm done preaching. No, I'm not done preaching. I still have another talk to go, but anyway. That's my burden. So I was asked to be careful, and I said, you don't have to ask me. Try to be careful. Okay, anyone else? And I don't mean to knock your story, Herb. It could be just as true as anything. Point is, you don't have pictures, you don't have proof, you don't have, you know what I mean? And those are the things that I got to avoid. Question right here.
What about human remains?
Human remains, where are those humans?
Why don't we have a conglomeration of bones like we do for...
Would you like to stay for my next talk? Okay, good, because it's at the very end of that talk. What happened to humans? Anyone else? Why, we all became evolved.
I'm sure they'll have more questions for you.
Okay, good.
Afterwards.
Good, thank you.
Let's take a short break. Restrooms and the drinking fountain.
And
right there.
fossils.
And the fossils. Come on up, take a look. Did you have? Yeah.
I got the best fossil ever. Oh, I need a volunteer, young volunteer, female volunteer preferably. Female volunteer, young, sub-adult. Oh, here's one right here. Come on up. Okay, stand right there. This is my favorite fossil, and it took me a while to get this. I want you to hold it up. This is very heavy. Okay, do you know what this is? This is fossilized dinosaur poop.
At least it's fossilized. It's very heavy.
It's very heavy, isn't it? Isn't it interesting? It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I have a smaller one of these when I go to elementary schools, no offense, but I do like to pick girls, and they, pew, off it goes and everything. Total fun. Of course, and then the boys come forward and say, oh, I'll hold it, Anyway, had to show them that.
All right, yeah,
come on up, see the poop.
Take a quick break. Come up and look at the fossils. We don't want to wait too long. We want to get on to our next meeting, but you need a shot at the bathroom and get a little drink. So we'll start. Maybe let's try for 5 minutes.
Oh,